Hey guys, tonight we're pulling back the curtains, literally on a world where bed sheets mattered almost as much as bloodlines. We're headed deep into the Tudor courts where privacy was a luxury and bedroom access wasn't about intimacy. It was about power. This isn't a tale of candlelit romance or soft pillows. You're stepping into rooms where every glance, every whispered word, every towel handed to the king could shape your fate or seal your doom. Fair warning, you probably won't survive this. Not because of war or famine, but because you looked at someone the wrong way while they were slipping into a silk nightshirt. Before we dive in, take a moment to like and subscribe if you enjoy this journey. Oh, and tell me your city and what time it is where you are. I'm curious who's out there in the dark with me. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum, and let's step into the shadows together. You're standing in the heart of the Tudor court. Hampton Court Palace, perhaps Whitehall, and the chill of the stone floor seeps through your slippers. It's early morning, the corridors still dim, but the king is about to wake, and you've earned the precarious honor of entering his Privy Chamber. Not the grand council room or the banqueting hall, but his bedroom, his guarded private world. No velvet ropes, no tour guides, just the king, his thick feather mattress, and a handful of men so trusted their presence feels like divine favor. To get this close, you don't need a sword. You need a comb or a clean linen shirt. In the Tudor world, power isn't forged on battlefields. It's folded neatly at the foot of the king's bed. As dawn creeps through leaded glass windows, you help prepare the room. The air smells of beeswax with smoke and the faint tang of night sweat clinging to rich fabrics. Courtiers whisper as they straighten tapestries and tuck stray cushions. This is the Privy Chamber, the inner sanctum. And no, privy doesn't just mean toilet, though that's part of it. It means private, personal, sacred. Here, the king's world is stripped bare, his crown locked away, his armor elsewhere, but his authority pulses through the few men allowed to see him before he's fully dressed. These aren't mere servants. They're the gentlemen of the Privy Chamber, with the king's ear, his trust, and sometimes his attention while he's half-naked and yawning. You realize it's not about the bed. It's about who gets to see him vulnerable. Henry VIII, in particular, knew the strategic value of his morning routine. He didn't dress himself. He let you do it, slowly, ritualistically, turning every morning into a subtle coronation. Shirt, hose, codpiece, doublet, all handed over with the precision of arming a knight for battle, except the battlefield is policy, marriage negotiations, or divvying up monastery lands. It's tempting to imagine these bedrooms as cozy retreats, but they're political war zones draped in brocade. If you're in the king's favor, you might lace his boots. If not, you're watching through a cracked door, praying no one notices you've been replaced by a courtier with better teeth or stronger connections. Your presence here grants you information. The king's mood, the wince when he bends, the sigh after reading a letter from Spain. You're watching him become king in real time, and that's intel you can trade for favors, land, or protection when things go wrong. But it's not just about the king. The Privy Chamber is where factions collide. Noblemen want their sons here. Ambassadors bribe for access. Wives watch anxiously because proximity to the king means proximity to power, political or otherwise. The bedroom isn't warm and plush. It's stiff, formal, cold. The bed, massive and draped in crimson or green with embroidered initials, isn't just for sleeping. It's a stage. Even the sheets feel ceremonial. Step on the wrong rug pattern, and you might offend a noble's crest. Every object carries meaning. Every moment is watched, even by a sharp-eyed valet noting how long it took you to hand over the king's nightcap. This isn't a paid job in the modern sense. It's about influence, the 16th century equivalent of being verified on social media, but riskier. One misstep could land you in the tower. Sometimes, your job is to do nothing. Just sit by the king's bed while he sleeps. Boring? Hardly. The tension is palpable. What if he wakes needing something? What if he mutters about invading France in his sleep? Fall asleep yourself, and you're a liability. Scholars still debate how much policy was shaped in these intimate spaces versus formal councils. Some say the bedroom was where real influence was brokered, with the king more candid when half-dressed. Others argue it was symbolic, with true power lying in documents and seals. Either way, being near the royal bed wasn't about comfort. It was about control. Every yawn, every slipper offered, was a move in a game most didn't even know they were playing. As the light shifts from soft dawn to the warm glow of a stoked fire, the king stirs. This is the king's rising, a ritual that feels almost religious, but instead of robes and incense, it's hose and tunics. You stand with the others, back straight, breath held. No one speaks unless spoken to. The curtains are drawn slowly, revealing not a majestic figure, but a large, slightly sweaty man with sleep-crusted eyes. Yet he's still the king. He mutters about his sleep, and the ritual begins. One gentleman brings slippers, another a basin for washing, another a fresh shirt, accepted as if it's a royal favor. You hold a towel, waiting for the perfect moment to offer it. Too early or too late, and you're out, replaced by someone with better connections. Every movement is watched, every pause judged. This towel isn't just for drying. It's a symbol. You're touching skin few see, within arm's reach of the Tudor body, a proximity to policy. If the king grumbles about Parliament while patting his face, you know more than the Privy Council. These rituals follow a precise rhythm. Undershirt on as the basin is removed, beard combed before boots arrive, stand clear when the sword belt is brought. No talking, just glances and nods. The king, half-dressed and stretching, begins whispering court business. A letter is slipped into his hand. He frowns, and you know someone's day is about to sour. This isn't just waking up, it's power assembling itself, layer by layer, until the man you helped out of bed is the sovereign in full regalia. Henry VIII relished this performance. Unlike his aloof father, he enjoyed the banter, cracking crude jokes, or teasing his gentlemen once awake. You laugh carefully, never louder than him, because laughter is currency, and you're trying to save your career. Scholars debate whether the lever was symbolic or a crucible of influence. The truth likely lies in between. It wasn't the only path to power, but it was a shortcut. If you couldn't be a general or chancellor, picking the king's codpiece was a solid plan B. The king's morning mood sets the court's tone. Cheerful, and laws pass, gifts flow, ambassadors are welcomed. Irritable, and heads roll, literally. As a gentleman of the Privy Chamber, you're the court's emotional barometer. People ask, was His Majesty cheerful this morning? Before approaching with petitions. You, holder of towels and watcher of yawns, become a secret oracle. But this access is fickle. One day, you're offering a doublet and getting a smile. The next, the king ignores you, and someone else takes your place. In the Tudor court, irrelevance is a slow death. The gentlemen aren't friends. They're rivals, smiling in the morning while watching your every move. One wrong word, one betrayal, and you're gone, maybe imprisoned or blackmailed. You hear stories of those who got too close, saw too much, and were encouraged to retire to the countryside. Yet, as you fasten the king's final belt and step back, there's a thrill. You're part of a centuries-old ceremony, half liturgy, half performance art. The air smells of rose oil and leather. The king's boots gleam. He looks every bit the monarch, but you remember his sleepy sigh about leg pain. You saw the man behind the myth. As the king strides to the presence chamber, the Privy Chamber grows still. The fire crackles, unattended. The scent of lavender water lingers. You watch the others clear linens and fold garments with ritual precision. The real drama unfolds after the king leaves, in the silences and whispers. The bed, still rumpled, dominates like an altar, its carved frame and heavy curtains a fortress of secrets. This isn't a place of rest. It's where politics hides in plain sight. Tudor beds were political props, built for visibility, surrounded by furniture that suggested intimacy, but allowed watchful eyes. You might arrange pillows for a guest to kneel and whisper conspiracies, a performative secrecy everyone notices. Your presence in the Privy Chamber is a political statement. Either you're in favor or about to be devoured. The bed, with its thick curtains, is the axis of power. A nod from the king on its edge could earn you a knighthood, a scowl during prayers, and you're packing. Access to this chamber is currency traded for favors and alliances. The thicker the curtain, the murkier the politics. One morning, you watch a nervous noble, sweating through his doublet, ushered in with ceremony. He offers a gift, speaks privately by the bed, and the king's expression shifts. Later, his debt is forgiven, and his rival loses a court post. Coincidence? Unlikely. You see jealousy simmer, sideways glances when another gentleman is chosen to assist, clipped tones from a chamberlain relegated to the doorway. Access is a blessing and a curse. Once you've been inside, exclusion stings deeper. The king might close his curtains to signal who's welcome and who isn't. Not always about intimacy, sometimes a silent punishment. Noblemen wait outside, feigning casual chatter, hoping for summons that rarely comes. Royal beds were checked nightly for intruders or weapons, a ritual you perform, running hand along the frame, peeking under the mattress. It's not about expecting an assassin. It's about the ritual itself. These rooms lie, pretending to be restful while functioning as pressure chambers. You once overheard a political negotiation behind the headboard, titles traded like poker chips while the king nodded from his pillow. Scholars debate whether the bedchamber was a reward for favor or a tool to gain it. Some say it was symbolic. Others point to the rapid rise of Privy Chamber staff in wealth and power. The truth lies tangled in the sheets. By late morning, the chamber is reset, bed smoothed, curtains fluffed, basin polished. It's eerie, like wiping a crime scene clean. You carry the morning's whispers, noting who lingered, who looked too eager. Stepping into the brighter palace corridors, you long for the darkness behind those curtains. Once you've glimpsed the soft underbelly of power, you're never the same. The sound of soft boots signals the gentlemen of the Privy Chamber, and tonight, you're one of them. Not just entering the king's bedchamber, but sleeping inside it. Not in his bed, but on a pallet behind a screen, your breath sinking with his dreams, if you can sleep at all. This isn't about rest. It's about presence, trust, and unsettling intimacy. Imagine sleeping feet away from a world leader, dressed and alert, pretending to snore while listening for everything, in a room lit by a dying fire, surrounded by men who'd betray each other for a chance to carry the king's cloak. You lie still, eyes half shut, listening to the king's uneven snores, his leg ulcers' faint metallic scent cutting through the ointments. A coal shifts in the hearth. Another gentleman coughs. The silence stretches, tense and fragile. You roll to ease your shoulder, brushing the hilt of your ceremonial dagger. Sleeping here means you've passed the ultimate test, vetted for discretion, safe from ambition or gossip. You know when the king wakes, how often he rises, what he mumbles in his dreams. That knowledge is power, heavier than any proclamation. You've heard him wake sweating from nightmares about in Bullen, seen him weep silently on Jane Seymour's death anniversary, watch him reread letters from his daughters. You never speak of these moments, but they give you an edge over courtiers outside. Yet, this proximity traps you. You can't leave court, can't travel unless the king does. If he stays up drinking, you do too. If he's in a foul mood, you endure it, laughing at his jokes or sitting in heavy silence. The gentlemen joke. We're not servants. We're hostages with combs. It's not far from the truth. The chamber's furniture changes with each monarch, but the bed's meaning endures. Huge, central, draped, a symbol of vulnerability and trust. Sometimes you sleep under it, on a hidden pallet, a humiliating but accepted role. It's theatrical, pairing royal vulnerability with the chosen few who witness it. To the public, the king is a golden myth. To you, he's a man who snores and fusses in his sleep. These details don't diminish your reverence. They deepen it. You serve the man, not the myth. When a midnight messenger arrives with news of rebellion, you scramble from your pallet, candle in hand, heart racing with opportunity. Fetching the right person or soothing the king's temper can earn you more in minutes than lords gain in years. But the politics are cutthroat. You and the other gentlemen are colleagues and rivals, tallying favors and whispers, pretending not to overhear each other's talks with the king. Historians debate whether this inner circle had too much power. Were they stabilizers or parasites? Wars started here in candlelit murmurs when a half-dressed king nodded and said, "Do it." Tonight, though, it's just the fire's hiss, the king's snores, and you're aching back on a too-short pallet, staring at the ceiling, power breathing inches away. Then there's the job you never expected, Groom of the Stool. Yes, you're in charge of the king's chamber pod, a cushioned wooden contraption with a porcelain bowl. You heat water, select linens, stand nearby, never staring but always listening. It sounds absurd, helping the ruler of England with his bodily functions, but it's far from a joke. Proximity is trust. The Groom of the Stool is a gatekeeper, a confidant, sometimes a manipulator with more access than the Lord Chancellor. The king vents, muses, even asks your opinion mid-act. Your responses are careful, useful. You hear everything, touch him when no one else can, and become part of an inner circle no one understands. This role brings bizarre pride. You know things, his complaints, his sighs, that no one else does. You shape his mood, filter information, polish the ugly. Nobles seek your favor. Ambassadors linger near you. Even queens acknowledge your position. A French envoy once joked that the English king's backside determines foreign policy. You didn't laugh, it's true. A king who can't ride to war or cancels councils due to digestion issues shifts the court's rhythm. Historians argue over whether the groom was a glorified valet or a shadow politician. Letters and edicts suggest they shaped marriages, campaigns, even bishoprics. As you rinse the pot and fold the linen, you realize you're part nurse, part spy, part puppet master, all because you held a towel. Serving in the queen's chambers is different. The lighting is softer, the voice is quieter, the floor is warmer. But don't be fooled. This room is as political as the king's, perhaps more so. You carry not just linens, but secrets hidden in glances. As a chamberer to a Tudor queen, you navigate hundreds of rules, especially about touch. You don't touch her unless required, and never alone. Always in pairs or threes, as if she might whisper state secrets if unwatched. Queens like in Bullen were symbols of fertility and virtue, their bodies dynastic property. You're a steward of sacred flesh. You help her in her nightgown, its starched ribbons cool against her warm skin. She doesn't thank you, but her glance acknowledges you. You track her cycles, appetite, sleep, because pregnancy is a political earthquake. A missed period could signal an heir, a cramp, a national letdown. When in faints, the room freezes, the machinery of dynasty grinding. Bathing her is symbolic, not sanitary, a clinical act under scrutiny. Every gesture is a delicate dance in a world where power hides behind velvet curtains. The water for the queen's bath is barely warm, and the rose oil soap is more about scent than cleanliness. You hold the cloth, steady her on the slippery wooden stool, and dry her feet, all under the watchful eyes of others. They're always witnesses, especially during her bath. The queen is not to be touched by any man but the king. This rule bends only for childbirth or medical emergencies, but in daily life, it holds firm. As a female attendant, you're neither friend nor sister, but a buffer between her vulnerability and the world. Affection is rare here, but trust is gold. Earn it, and you wield more influence than a dozen dukes. The queen's chamber hums with theatrical intimacy. You sit at her feet during embroidery, brush her hair as she stares into the fire, lost in thought. She murmurs complaints about an ambassador's bad breath or a fleeting dream. You listen without reacting, never agreeing too quickly or correcting her, but always remembering. These asides can become court currency by morning. One evening, and snaps her fingers, dismissing a lady without explanation. The woman hesitates, curtsies, and leaves. The air shifts, and turns to you, voice low. Don't trust her. She speaks French only when it suits her. No further details, but you pass the message to the right ears. Soon, the lady's position is reconsidered, her brother's trade grant revoked, all because she flaunted her language skills at the wrong moment. Access to the queen's body grants access to her mind. Her moods are like weather patterns. Pale, she's upset. Flushed, hopeful, or feverish. Eating less, in love, or in danger. You chart her behaviors because her body is politics, especially when she's expected to produce a male heir. A quirky tradition you witness is the monthly womb wine, spiced red wine with rue, mugwort, and cinnamon, served in a specific goblet at twilight to stimulate fertility or balance humors. Whether it works is unclear, but it gives the illusion of control, and sometimes that's enough. The queen's chamber feels different from the king's. His is all command and conquest, loud, ceremonial. Here, power is subterranean, wielded in whispers, glances, and silences. The queen, second in the realm, rarely speaks directly. Her servants speak for her, her silences shout. Historians debate how much power Tudor queens held. Pawns in a marriage game or rulers behind a veil. Some say in Boleyn or Catherine Parr shaped policy directly. Others argue they softened male politics. Holding a silver basin as the queen dips her fingers in rose water, you see the truth. Influence doesn't need to be loud, just close. You've seen her in pain, fury, joy, bleeding, crying, laughing, cursing. You've held her hair during morning sickness, rubbed oil into her swollen ankles, watched her take the king's hand with grace after public humiliation. One night, as you tuck a lavender sachet in her pillow, she looks at you and whispers, "Do you think it will be a boy?" You balance honesty and reassurance. "I think England is ready for one." She closes her eyes. So am I. In that moment, the weight of a kingdom presses on her small, tired, extraordinary body. The palace is restless tonight, the air thick with tension like storm clouds over the Thames. Back in the king's wing, you move between chambers with an empty tray and full ears. Two men speaking French outside the great hall fall silent as you pass. One glances away too quickly. At court, there's always a conversation just out of reach, and power lies in pretending not to notice while catching every word. Rumors swirl. A letter intercepted, an unlogged visit, the king in a foul mood. Not just bad. A bad mood costs a post. A foul one could draw blood. In the Privy Chamber, the bed is untouched, curtains still open from morning, strange for this hour. The bedding should be smooth, lavender sprigs tucked in, but the king hasn't returned. His boots sit under a chair, but he's absent. A few gentlemen linger, speaking in coded phrases. Then you hear it. A goblet's clink, a muted laugh, a woman's bold voice behind the tapestries. Your heart stutters. She doesn't belong to the queen's household or any official list. A fleeting figure, head down, face veiled. You adjust a cushion, inching closer. Shadows move. She laughs again, then silence hums. You look away. You've seen nothing, heard nothing. Knowing too much, especially about this, is a fast track to the tower. The king's bedroom is a battlefield. Every mistress, every unlisted visitor is a political grenade. A whispered secret during pillow talk could unravel a treaty. A casual suggestion could reshape the Privy Council. You've heard of favorites rising overnight for saying what the king wanted to hear. By morning, the woman is gone, the bedding changed, the king in high spirits, calling for music, a sure sign something happened. Henry VIII doesn't request lutes unless he's celebrating. The court shifts, factions realign. You, changing the basin water, see whose fortunes rise and whose fall. That afternoon, a courtier, Lord P, is reassigned far from London, no explanation given. You recall seeing him near the chamber last night. Coincidence? Doubtful. Betrayals happen in shadows, in whispers between sheets. Not just lovers, but friends, servants, or a groom too close during a drunken confession. You've known men ruined over a single comment. A footman joked about the king's legs smelling like death. Within days, he was erased. No trial, just gone. Intimacy here is dangerous, blurring lines, making people think they're safe. The bed promises trust, but weaponizes it. Say the wrong thing, and it's your coffin. Scholars debate the influence of the king's lovers, ornaments, or policy architects. Some say Jane Seymour mended ties with Princess Mary. Others note and bullion-shaped religious reform. But influence is borrowed, tied to desire, which is fickle and violent. Yet some play it well, like Margaret, a lady who never touched the king, but became indispensable with time's smiles and words, securing a comfortable life unscathed, a rare feat. As you extinguish the final candle and check the chamber's lock, you wonder who's listening, waiting outside, hoping their moment behind the curtain matters by morning. You smooth the sheets, adjust the pillow. The king will return, alone or not. In this room, lover, spy, and traitor are separated by whispers. The bed is ready tonight, covers tight, sheets starched, rosemary and soap lingering. The ceremony of the royal bedchamber isn't about sleep. It's a production, and you have a front row seat and a walk-on role. The king doesn't wander to bed when tired. There's a processional, a slow shift from public to private. Torches dim as he moves from the presence chamber to his apartments, you and other attendants echoing silently. Nobles linger in the outer chamber, hoping for a word or glance. The deeper you go, the fewer remain. The court's great filtering mechanism. In the Privy Chamber, only trusted men stay. You're among them tonight, witnessing the ceremonial unwrapping of the king. One gentleman unclasps his mantle, another folds it, another removes his sword belt. The king is peeled to his bare dignity, his wrinkled shirt replaced with a warmed nightshirt. The bed waits, centered on a low platform, its canopy and curtains tied back with golden cords. The mattress, straw and feathers, is turned, the bolster plumped for the cool side. Even kings prefer that. The king rarely climbs into bed alone. Attendants stay until he settles, leaving only at his command, filing out with bowed backs. Does it ever feel private? Tonight, he lingers by the bedpost, thumb tapping, distracted, perhaps by a petition or an ambassador's tone. You hold a candle, keeping shadows off his face, silent unless prompted. Tomorrow's mood hinges on this moment, his sleep, his dreams. He settles under the covers, and you begin the curtain closure, releasing cords clockwise, the fabric's whispery fall like distant thunder. Curtaining the sovereign shields him from threat and expectation, signaling his unavailability until morning, except to you and the few who remain. You settle on your cot, the fire's embers glowing. The king's breathing steadies, occasionally broken by mutters or the mattress's creak. Earlier, you checked the bed for daggers or cursed objects, a ritual born of real threats. Scholars debate whether the bedchamber's ceremony reinforced royal mystique or served practical purposes like security and hierarchy. You know it's both. A sleeping king is vulnerable. Velvet and ritual protect him. You wonder what he dreams of: war, youth, or simpler memories like his mother's hand or spring gardens. You'll never ask. In the hours between curtains closing and sunrise, he's just a body under a blanket, and you ensure that blanket is folded just right. The room is warm, sealed by tapestries and shutters, but tonight the queen is in labor, and you're among the few witnessing what should be private. Nothing is private when a dynasty depends on her womb. Confinement is a generous term. She's been secluded for weeks in soft lighting, surrounded by silks, midwives, and whispering ladies. It's meant to be holy, but feels like a pressure cooker. No men are allowed past the outer chamber, not even the king. The women know what's at stake. One wrong turn could end the queen, the heir, or the line. You sit on a narrow bench, candles pooling wax in brass saucers. The queen, pale and damp, grips the bedpost, her face set between contractions. Queens don't scream. They breathe, wince, weep quietly. The room is a feminine cave, windows blocked with velvet, floors carpeted to mute sound. The silence is ceremonial, preserving the delicate balance of life and death. Charms hang from the bed, a silver cross, a Virgin Mary's ring, a ribbon with Latin blessings. You tucked an herbal recipe under her pillow, a pain-easing charm from someone's great-aunt. It's about feeling less helpless. The queen meets your eyes for a second, raw and scared. Does she want this audience, this pressure to produce a son? A midwife gestures, you fetch cloths. Then a wet cry, small, sharp. No cheers yet. The baby is cleaned, wrapped, examined. A murmur, a girl. Your heart sinks. Not because she isn't beautiful, but because she isn't a boy, a disappointment in Tudor England. The queen, exhausted, smiles faintly as the infant is placed in her arms. This child is a verdict, a prophecy, a question mark. Scholars debate whether confinement empowered women, offering a space to bond away from men, or oppress them, tying their worth to sons. You see both, watching a queen reduced to her biology. You change the bloodied sheets, humbled by life's rawness. The court will learn of the birth. Bells will ring, but not joyfully. Whispers about the queen's health and the king's wandering, I will grow. You fold linens, the baby whimpers, midwives pray, and you realize there's no privacy here, only degrees of exposure. Polishing a goblet, you overhear maids whisper, if the queen didn't tell him, someone else did. They giggle and scatter when a higher-ranking lady enters. The phrase lingers, someone with access means danger. Later, in the king's second chamber, you stand near a hidden passage behind the wardrobe, an unspoken route to private beds. You've seen dropped slippers, stray earrings. No one comments, but you note them. The king's moves leave traces, and an economy thrives on stitching them together. A sealed letter passes to a servant who vanishes behind a wardrobe. Soon, the king calls for wine, brought by an unfamiliar servant who moves too confidently. An hour later, a woman's name, a courtier's daughter, barely 17, slips out in a whisper. You stay neutral, but listen. What happens in the king's bed ripples into appointments, banishments. Bedding tells stories, stains spark scandals, their absence worse. The king believes he's safe in bed, but servants, maids, and valets carry his words outward, sometimes to foreign courts. A music box in the queen's chamber, rumored to hide a listening device, vanished one day, sparking dismissals and inspections. Was it true? The paranoia is real. Scholars debate whether the Tudors knew their bedrooms were bugged or believed them private. Some say they dropped phrases intentionally to trace gossip. Others argue they were naive. You've seen servants punished for copying love letters or reporting bathing habits. Once, a page hid under the bed, gathering affair evidence. He was caught, his fate unknown. In the dark corridor, you hear a man's laugh and a woman's murmur behind a curtain. You walk on, not too fast. The safest path is silence, forgettable but always listening. Tonight, the chamber is chilly despite the fire. You adjust the bed's covers, creased perfectly, embroidery outward, no lumps. The bed will be seen, not just by maids, but by nobles, officials, witnesses. The king's consummation is imminent, an intimate act turned public ritual to seal legitimacy. The sheets are fresh, the canopy brushed, pillows in an X for fertility. The room fills, counselors, bishops, even the Lord Chamberlain, once exiled for sneezing. Absurd, but this is how Tudor legitimacy works. The Lord Chamberlain clutches a folded parchment, likely detailing the official language for the ritual about to unfold. You avoid eye contact, too awkward. A stir ripples through the room as the newlyweds enter. You don't look directly, nor does anyone else, but you glimpse the queen's pale blue satin slippers, embroidered with vines, and the king's velvet robe lined with ermine. Nothing says romance like dead stoats. They approach the bed silently. No declarations, just a nod to efficiency. The others file out, except two witnesses. You're one, unexpectedly chosen, not for nobility, but for your proven silence. This royal marriage carries massive political weight, and no one wants whispers that the king faltered. You stand still, eyes low, ears open. A single candle flickers by the bed. Rustling fabric, a bedpost squeak, a quiet sigh, the king's grunt. Once, maybe twice. It's over quickly. You feel detached, neither disgusted nor awed, just surreal, standing by as the monarch performs a ritual that's part fertility prayer, part political theater. When it's done, The queen lies still, eyes closed. The king sits up, wipes his brow, mutters something unclear. You and the other witness nod slightly. The bishop will record it. The documents will confirm the marriage consummated, the succession secured. You help strip the bed. The sheets are checked. Yes, for stains, for proof. When a maid gives a subtle nod, shoulders relax around the chamber. No smiles, but the silence shifts, heavier, settled, as if disaster was averted. Not all consummations go smoothly. You've heard of Mary Tudor and Philip of Spain needing a translator in the outer chamber, their shared language lacking. Or Anne of Cleves, when Henry famously said, "I liked her not," as if that was the only issue. Some say these rituals were rehearsed, not the act, but the ceremony, courtiers practicing linen placement, shadow angles, choreography for a state-dependent bedroom. Historians debate the ritual's weight. Some call it symbolic, a medieval holdover. Others say it was vital political theater, especially for contested successions or alliances. An unconsummated marriage could be annulled, and annulments spark wars. You finish changing the bed, linens bundled, never reused, mattress rotated, new sheets drawn, candles lit. The queen will sleep here alone tonight. The king returns to his apartments. You breathe in lavender, wax, and a faint metallic tang, saying nothing, even to the other witness. Your silence is your service. In the queen's apartments, ladies in waiting pretend not to wait. One looks at you, curious but silent. By morning, everyone will know. You'll never see a bed the same way again. It's mid-morning, and you're in the royal bedchamber, not for sleep, but for a political shift. The bed is more than furniture today. It's a symbol of changing favor. A subtle request comes. Fresh linens for the king's bed. Routine, except it's not from the steward or chamberlain, but from a new gentleman of the Privy Chamber, his rise dizzyingly swift, charming, and adept at whispering to the king while folding doublets. The order isn't about cleanliness, it's a signal. The last person to change the sheets has lost favor. You carry the new linens down the corridor, every step heavy under the noble's glances. They know. It feels like carrying a death sentence disguised as laundry. In the chamber, the bed is as it was last night, slept in but intact. You wait for the new favorite's nod, a flick of the wrist. Do it. You strip the linen slowly, not from fatigue, but from understanding. These are prepared by someone now relegated to a quieter palace wing. As you lift the fitted corner, the room hushes. Attendants pause. One coughs. Another crosses his arms. This isn't routine. It's a reshuffle, an announcement without words. The bedding speaks its own language. Embroidery signals who ordered it. Folding shows who laid it. Scent reveals whose servant prepared it. Thickness, design, stitching, all declare allegiance. You're swapping one coat of arms for another on a feather mattress battlefield. You smooth the top cover and step back. The king hasn't arrived, but when he does, he'll notice the fabric's crispness, its scent. A smile means the new favorite's safe, displeasure, and their rise ends. You recall a servant banished for a too-warm nightcap. The king snapped. Do you wish to boil me like a pudding? By sundown, new sheets, new favorite. Everyone accepts these shifts. No protests, just redirected glances and acknowledgement of a new tide. You've learned linen patterns like a language. Floral motifs hint at the queen's embroiderers. Geometric borders at ambitious courtiers' continental tastes. Once you installed a green silk bedspread with golden lions, used for one-night spectacle, never slept on. Some whisper that changing bedding resets the king's mood or inclines him toward mercy. Ridiculous, until you note pardons signed after a perfectly scented bed. Later, the new favorite smiles. The sheets are acceptable, their position secure. A story lingers of a noble woman dismissed after gifting the queen linen tied to a former queen, its dangerous memory woven into the threads. Scholars overlook these domestic rituals, focusing on treaties and battles, but you know power shifts with swords or sheets. You pass the old linens to a junior servant, perhaps to be laundered, perhaps burned. You don't ask, already planning tomorrow's pillowcase perfume. In this court, Loyalty is measured in thread count, revolutions in cotton. You've seen oddities, half-dressed dukes, nobles kissing boots too eagerly. But nothing matches the night they claim the Duke of Suffolk sleepwalked through the bedchamber with a dagger. At first, it's a guard's tale, but an urgent knock and a footman's pale face summon you. Not for bravery, but trust. In the royal bedchamber, even sleep is political. Flanked by guards, you follow dim corridors, lantern light warping tapestries. The king, gently moved to another chamber, was annoyed, not alarmed. Let the man sleep in the garden. But this is serious, a noble wandering here with a weapon. In the bedchamber, the sheets are still warm from the king's nap. You hear movement in the gallery toward the chapel, slow, uncertain. There's the duke, shirt open, feet sooty, eyes unfocused, drifting like a leaf. The dagger hangs low, ornamental dull. He murmurs a child's rhyme. Guards hesitate. You signal calm, recalling a cousin who sleepwalked into danger. You step forward, matching his pace, close enough to see sweat on his brow. He stops, turns, whispers, "She was here under the sheets," and collapses. You check the dagger, ceremonial, harmless, but in this court, even a butter knife at the wrong hour sparks panic. Guards carry him to his chamber, muttering about wine or stress. By morning, the court buzzes, not sleepwalking, but a disturbance in the king's peace. Witchcraft, secrets, or ambition. Whispers tie the duke to a woman favored by the king, or a battlefield betrayal. The Privy Council calls an accident. He's forgiven but sent to his estate. New guards are posted, the dagger misplaced. The king jokes about ghosts in the linen, but the bedchamber feels breached. Servants tighten sheet corners, guards knock louder. Scholars call it the Suffolk incident, a metaphor for the fragile line between intimacy and treason. Some claim he saw a hidden lover or agent. You never forget his vacant stare or check beneath the sheets now, just in case. There's a courtier who never draws attention. Lady Cecily, a lady-in-waiting who blends into the queen's shadow, elegant but understated. She's always there, by the queen's elbow at prayer, beside the ambassador's wife at supper, once near the king's bedchamber, claiming a lost prayer book. She slips between rooms like perfume, never lingering, never loud. Yet when Lord Wexley rises or the queen changes her dresser, Cecily's already positioned. At an informal supper, she sits quietly, smiling at a poet's clumsy verses, but her gaze flicks when the queen mentions a Low Countries envoy or a mint appointment tied to a lady's brother. Coincidence? Unlikely. When the queen retires, Cecily stays to smooth the coverlet, though you're on duty. No one protests. She works with serene composure, exchanging soft words with the queen as the door closes. Only hesitate, reaches you. Ladies awaiting are furniture, decorative, silent, but they're spies and scaffolds, seeing the queen's moods, bruises, fears. They trade letters under mending sleeves, whisper while combing hair, offer shoulders then pass secrets. Lady Maud once intercepted a poisoned gift, later marrying her rival's cousin and inheriting lands. Strategy, not luck. Last summer, after the queen's miscarriage, Cecily's quiet presence calmed her. That week, a rival was reassigned. The softest voices win here. Scholars overlook these women, but they were the queen's network, bending reality without touching it. One kept a log of visitors' perfumes and stay lengths, later securing marriages for her nieces. You pass Cecily's chamber. Her candle burns as she writes slowly. Letter, list, or prayer, it's valuable. You move silently. Footsteps echo louder than words. Folding the king's silk nightshirt, you marvel at its absurdity. Florentine, hand-stitched, rarely worn. Monarchs often sleep bare, but you lay it out, a signal of control. Perception matters. You've handled silk with pearl buttons, fur-trimmed velvet, even a theatrical robe re-gifted after one use. A lost tally sheet once sparked panic. A nightshirt found under a cushion cost a valet his post. What the king wears, or doesn't, reveals his reign. In crises, he sleeps dressed, ready to rise. In confidence, naked, untouchable. A crimson silk cap, jewel-adorned, was tossed under the bed on cold nights. Commoners sleep in day, clothes, or nothing. Royals perform even in sleep. The queen's nightwear is layered, modest, ceremonial, like thread armor. You've smoothed her shift, buttoned sleeves, tucked wraps, sensing exhaustion, not romance. Scholars miss the nightshirt's patterns. Material shifts before campaigns, no robes during depression, monogrammed ones after reconciliations. You fold tonight's shirt, untouched all week, wondering if he'll wear it or meet the sheets bare, reminding all he's untouchable. The morning after a royal wedding, you carry a velvet box with an emerald pendant, a morning gift declaring the marriage consummated. The court buzzes. Legitimacy hangs in the balance. You deliver it to the queen, composed at her dressing table, her nightgown swapped for silk. She lifts the emerald, nods, a flicker of satisfaction. The gift, a centuries-old custom, confirms her as wife, not just bride. Sometimes it's given despite a silent night, appearances trumping truth. You've seen ruby bracelets gifted amid whispers of untouched queens. Sheets are checked for stains, proof of consummation. A mark, a nod, and the kingdom breathes. Scholars call the morning gift decorative. You know it carries legal weight, securing titles and lands. Lady Cecily fastens the necklace, her glance a silent question. You blink, letting the emerald speak. In the king's apartments, laughter and meat bones scatter. A song about honor in the sheets plays. The sheets, turned over, show no blood, but new linens arrive. Some queens, desperate, fake stains with wine or prick fingers. The emerald shines, the marriage begins, the bed does its duty. Behind the illusion of silk and candles are the scriptwriters, the Lord Chamberlain, mistress of the robes, etiquette advisors. They choreograph the bedchamber's narrative, from curtain colors to relic placement. A dispute over the queen's confinement bed, centered or offset, revealed their power. The ordinances of the bedchamber dictate nightshirt warming, linen order, even bed orientation. Always east, even when traveling. A misaligned bed at Dover sparked emotions. These rules create order, signal hierarchy. A valet's delayed curtain draw or a lady's lingering comfort can shift decisions. Scholars debate whether these architects were decorative or tactical. You know they whispered names at bedtime, shaping fates. They log everything, pillow angles, room temperature, managing the monarchy even in sleep. You follow the routine precisely. The king's nightshirt is folded with a single diagonal crease in the coverlet, candles lit in reverse order, a rule you don't question. Just before the king arrives, the Lord Chamberlain inspects, running a finger along the pillow's edge. He nods, silent approval, and leaves. In this court, silence is success. You step back, blending into the shadows, aware someone designed this moment, down to your exact position. They likely sleep better than the king. The palace is tense this morning, the silence heavy, like the pause before a tapestry falls. You felt this before executions or war declarations, but today it's different. Courtiers' steps are too sharp, scribes' brows furrowed, the groom of the robes pale. Passing the king's bedchamber, you notice Thomas Cromwell's absence. No announcement, just a void where he once stood, reciting titles with terrifying speed. The linens confirm it. The monogrammed R with Tudor roses Cromwell's design is gone, replaced with plain, neutral sheets. His influence is scrubbed away, like spilled wine. You saw his fall coming. The king's snap in council, Lady Mary's cold glance, the disastrous end of Clevy's marriage. Cromwell's diplomacy and lavender-scented bedding couldn't mask the king's humiliation, and his face haunted his sleep. Yesterday, he stood at the bed's foot, smirking, discussing treasury reforms. The king's silent turn was a death knell. Now, a nervous lesser favorite folds the king's cloak in Cromwell's spot. You change the bed again, rougher sheets for the king's foul mood. No more damned ornament. Cromwell, a logistical genius without military rank, anticipated the king's needs. New mattresses, moonless night tapestries. Now his name is unspoken, his Italian damask sheets missing, likely burned. Gossip swirls, French plots, cursed bedpans. Being forgotten is worse than being despised. Scholars focus on Cromwell's politics, but you know the bedchamber tells more. Linens change before warrants are signed. The chamber feels heavier today, missing Cromwell's perfume and pageantry. You close the door, the king dreaming of power, seeking a new nightshirt folder. Before dawn, you're summoned to polish hinges. Not your rank, but her is mentioned, the mistress with the powdered throat, silent slippers, and cinnamon violet scent. You wax a hidden door's lock, blending into the paneling, leading to an alcove and the royal apartments. Lady Rosamond, the unofficial mistress, uses it to enter and exit unseen, cloaked as a maid or veiled. Her touch is in the bed. Lighter blankets, off-center pillows, moonlight slivers. Her lavender sprigs marked a war nightshirt. Her whispered comparison saved a noble's life. Historians debate mistresses, manipulators, or victims, but their influence is undeniable. Palace designs include these secret entries, oiled for silence. A maid once scrubbed Rosamond's sheets angrily, muttering about laundered rage. Another mistress was banished, her door sealed, sent to Wales. The hinges gleam now. Rosamond will glide through tonight, her scent lingering. Scratching in the bed curtains isn't a mouse. It's bedbugs big enough to flinch at. In the Tudor court, pests are political. A king's itch could sour policy. A flea bite once derailed French trade talks. Bedbugs suggest sabotage. Spanish visitors, the queen's linen supplier, a disgruntled servant? You report quietly, and the bed is stripped, mattress hauled out, vinegar and herbs deployed. The king at chapel is unaware, but gossip blames the queen's tapestries or less public visitors. You craft a story. Spanish bugs could sour relations. A servant's error could end a life. A past Scottish blanket incident sparked an ambassador's recall. A superstition claims crushing a bug between coins banishes others. A stained penny sits under the headboard. Scholars downplay pests, but a king's comfort is stability. The bed is reset, lavender sprinkled, seams checked. The king runs a hand over it, silent. You've bought peace, but the bugs will return. A Venetian ambassador tours the bedchamber, a rare breach of its sanctity. His sharp reputation precedes him. The Lord Chamberlain leads, pausing at the bed. Dark oak posts, crimson velvet canopy, symbolic embroidery. The ambassador asks if the king sleeps alone. His Majesty sleeps where he wishes, comes the vague reply. He inspects the coverlet, seeking perfume or use. The chamberlain explains the lever ritual, privacy absent. Curtains close in a soundless sweep, impressing the Venetian. The tour is both invitation and warning. Closeness is staged. Past envoys noted the bed's fortress-like posts or width, hinting at fidelity. The ambassador memorizes details for his report. You smooth sheets post-visit, erasing traces. The bed is a diplomatic gesture in a secret fortress. The queen's illness turns her bed into a medical stage. Shutters closed, air thick with vinegar and rue. She lies pale in a loose shift, compress steaming. You change linens without jostling her, ladies watching. Her health, tied to heirs, is political. Sheets are boiled with marjoram, the mattress turned, pale green coverlet used to soothe. She murmurs, a lady whispers comfort. Gossip grows. Ambassadors question her frailty. A rosemary sprig and a Saint Roch prayer are tucked in, protective symbols. Physicians debate humors, unsure. Beds are thrones for birth, recovery, death. You leave, the coverlet smooth over her still form, the nation's fate beneath it. A late-night summons keeps you in the king's chamber. A masked man delivers a chest, letters, an ivory-hilted dagger, a pillowcase with a crest, confiscated from a fallen favorite. The king orders everything changed. Sheets, pillows, mattress. You scrub with vinegar, erasing traces. A diamond ring once lingered post-dismissal, its finder demoted. Rosemary scents the new sheets, signaling remembrance or malice. The king lies down, curtains open, staring at the canopy, trust breached. The king's last night in this bed is heavy. Tomorrow, he moves to new apartments, this chamber tainted by whispers and betrayals. He sits, slumped, recalling nights, laughter, suspicions. The bed, ordered post-coronation from his father's forest, holds alliances, heirs, broken promises. He leaves the curtains open, lies down, not truly sleeping. The bed will be dismantled, repurposed, its history too dangerous. You'll serve in the new chamber, but this bed's rituals, folding, scenting, guarding, linger sadly. You slip out, the fire dim, the king alone under a coverlet he'll never touch again. 30 nights in Tudor bedchambers reveal they're not for rest but thrones, council tables, confessionals. Grooms, queen's confinements, morning gifts, pests, and hidden doors shape power. New sheets signal fallen favorites. A mistress's scent shifts policy. Proximity is currency. A servant folding a nightshirt outranks an earl. A lady brushing hair sways decisions. Beds are dismantled when trust sours, but their secrets cling like perfume. As you leave, the door closes, the fire dims, the coverlet smooth. The court plots beyond, history woven in thread and whispers. Sweet dreams.